Commander Eliza Chen flinched as the Axamora delegate's crystalline appendage scraped across the negotiation table, leaving a shallow groove in the polished surface. The alien's faceted eyes reflected the stark lighting of the Confederation diplomatic station, a massive structure orbiting Proxima Centauri. The human delegation will maintain composure, the translator device intoned flatly. Emotional displays are noted and factored into species assessment. Chen straightened her uniform and nodded to her team. 5 of Earth's finest diplomats, scientists and military strategists. They had trained for this moment for 3 years, ever since the Confederation probe appeared in Earth orbit with an invitation that read more like a summons. The Council has deliberated, announced the Vrel, ambassador, its gaseous form swirling within a containment field. Humanity's application for provisional membership has been conditionally approved. A ripple of relief passed through the human delegation until the Kalteri representative stepped forward. Standing over 2 meters tall with exoskeletal armor and multiple manipulator limbs, the predatory species served as the Confederation's security force. Your species' history reveals concerning patterns, the Kalteri's voice rasped through the translator. Persistent tribal conflicts, environmental mismanagement, aggressive territorial expansion within your own system. Holographic displays, activated, showing Earth's wars, nuclear tests, and early colony disputes on Mars and the Jovian moons. We have overcome these challenges, Chen countered, activating her own presentation, showing Earth's unified government, climate restoration, projects, and peaceful solar development. In the last 50 years alone. 50 years is meaningless, interrupted the Mithrani delegate, a slender being with iridescent skin. Species patterns manifest over centuries. The Confederation exists because we recognize the danger of premature integration. The Confederation Secretary, a being of indeterminate form shrouded in shifting robes, raised a limb for silence. The Council proposes the following terms. Earth will observe a 3-century silence. You may maintain observation posts at designated locations. You may receive Confederation broadcasts. You may not transmit communications beyond your solar system. You may not engage in trade. You may not establish colonies outside your home system. Chen's diplomatic training nearly failed her. 300 years of isolation? The alternative is complete quarantine, the secretary stated. No contact. No observation rights. Defensive perimeters established at your system's edge. The human delegation requested a recess, retreating to their ship. Hours of heated debate followed. We can't accept this, argued Defense Minister Kagawa. It's technological imprisonment while they advance 3 centuries beyond us. But we'd be allowed to observe, countered Science Director Alvarez. Think of what we could learn, even without direct engagement. Chen stared out the viewport at the massive Confederation station. They fear us, she realized. Not just our aggression, our adaptability, our ambition. When they returned to the Ilayo negotiation chamber, Chen formally accepted the terms, her voice steady despite the weight of her decision. What the Confederation delegates didn't know was that during the recess, she had authorized her security officer to execute Protocol Midnight, a daring theft of restricted data cores from a poorly guarded maintenance access. As Earth's ship departed, the station, Chen locked herself in her quarters examining the stolen information. The encryption yielded to Earth's quantum systems faster than expected, revealing the Confederation's legal archives, communication protocols, and surveillance blind spots. They want silence, she whispered, composing a final transmission to be broadcast the moment they crossed into Earth's system. But they never said we couldn't listen. The message contained detailed instructions for building covert observation networks, along with the comprehensive Confederation legal codes revealing a critical oversight. While humans couldn't speak to the galaxy, nothing in the agreement prevented the most extensive eavesdropping operation in history. Earth's great silence had begun, but humanity would not be deaf. Kaito Nakamura's eyes burned after 18 straight hours monitoring Confederation transmissions from Titan's stealth observatory. The facility, Buried beneath the moon's hydrocarbon lakes represented humanity's most advanced listening post, one of 37 scattered throughout the solar system. "You should rest," called a melodic voice behind him. He turned to find Zuri Okafor entering the monitoring chamber, her slim frame silhouetted against the dim lighting designed to minimize detection. As the station's xenolinguistics lead, she had developed revolutionary algorithms that could detect emotional subtexts in 17 Confederation languages. "Can't," Kaito replied, gesturing to his screen. "The Proxima hub has been unusually active. Look at these transmission patterns." Zuri leaned closer, her braided hair brushing his shoulder. The proximity detector implanted near his collarbone warmed slightly, a reminder that they were violating professional distance protocols. "These bursts don't match any scheduled diplomatic communications," she murmured, ignoring the warning. "And they're directed toward the Cygnus arm, where there shouldn't be anything of interest," Kaito finished. Except the Hyadian sector," Zuri said, pulling up astronomical data. Preliminary signals from there suggested pre-FTL, civilization development about 60 years ago. Kaito nodded grimly. And then nothing. Confederation reports classified it as evolutionary regression, a species that achieved technology, then destroyed itself. The 7th such case in 80 years. Zuri's fingers danced across the interface, correlating data. Always following the same pattern. Initial contact, provisional observation, then sudden civilization collapse. Their discovery led to weeks of covert investigation, analyzing thousands of encrypted transmissions. They worked in dangerous proximity, their forbidden attraction, intensifying alongside their growing suspicions. "It's deliberate," Kaito concluded one night, as they hid in a maintenance shaft to share findings away from monitoring systems. "The Kalteri security forces are dispatched to each world shortly, before communications cease." Zuri's expression hardened. "We need access to deep-level Confederation archives. The observation feeds aren't enough anymore." Their opportunity came when routine maintenance was scheduled for an automated relay satellite at the system's edge. Kaito volunteered, planning to install specialized hardware that could penetrate the Confederation's secure networks. The night before his departure, Zuri slipped into his quarters, against all protocols. "This is beyond dangerous," she whispered, pressing something into his hand. A quantum memory crystal containing her most advanced decryption algorithms. "If I'm right," he replied, "the Confederation isn't what it claims to be. Earth needs to know before our silence ends." Their embrace lasted seconds, all they could risk with the station's biometric monitoring. 3 days later, Kaito's maintenance shuttle failed to return. The official record listed a catastrophic life support failure. Zuri alone knew better, when she detected a brief, impossible transmission from his shuttle, directed not toward Titan but deep into Confederation space. In her quarters that night, she accessed his final message, transmitted on a frequency so narrow that even Earth's monitors missed it. A single data packet containing coordinates and a fragmentary Confederation security directive regarding specimen acquisition. Facing her terminal, Zuri made the decision that would alter the Watcher program forever. She initiated a shadow protocol that Kaito had created but never implemented, a dangerous escalation from passive observation to active infiltration of Confederation systems. "They took you," she whispered, overriding safety measures as tears streaked her face. "But they've revealed themselves, and now we'll be watching much more closely." As confirmation flashed on her screen, humanity's role silently shifted from observer to hunter. "Shut it down, Santiago," Director Alvarez ordered, his weathered face illuminated by the pulsing emergency lights. 3 subjects in neurological distress is 3 too many. Dr. Maya Santiago stood her ground before the observation window, beyond which 6 volunteers floated in suspension tanks, their brains linked by a web of quantum filaments. "The distress is temporary," she insisted. "The nexus is stabilizing. Their neural patterns are synchronizing in exactly the way my models predicted." The underground facility beneath the Atacama Desert housed Earth's most classified research project. an attempt to link human consciousness directly, creating a collective intelligence greater than the sum of its parts. Inspired by Confederation, neural technology glimpsed through covert observation. The Nexus had evolved in directions the aliens had never explored. Your models also predicted a 20% lower seizure rate, Alvarez countered. The Oversight Committee won't. An alarm suddenly silenced as all 6 subjects' neural patterns shifted into perfect alignment. On the central monitor, complex equations began to appear, solutions to quantum gravity problems that had stumped humanity's best minds for centuries. They've done it, Maya whispered, tears forming. 6 minds working as one, yet each remaining distinct. Within hours, the breakthrough transformed Earth's scientific community. The Nexus subjects emerged with their individuality intact but forever changed by the experience of shared consciousness. They described it not as a loss of self, but an expansion, experiencing multiple perspectives simultaneously while maintaining their core identity. Over the next decade, limited Nexus technology spread to research centers worldwide. Carefully selected groups tackled humanity's most pressing challenges, developing gravity manipulation, advanced biomaterials, and energy systems that operated on principles fundamentally different from Confederation standards. Maya's daughter, Arya, born during the project's early days, grew up in the shadow of her mother's creation. At 22, she volunteered for the long-term immersion study, an unprecedented experiment in sustained Nexus connection. The neural architecture is evolving, Maya noted on day 5, studying her daughter's brain scans. It's forming new structures we haven't seen before. Is she in danger? Asked Dr. Kwan, her research partner and sometimes lover. Her vital signs are perfect, Maya replied. But these patterns, it's as though she's connecting to something beyond the other subjects. On the 7th day, they began disconnection procedures. As Arya's consciousness separated from the Nexus, monitoring equipment detected a massive energy spike unlike anything previously recorded. When she awoke, Arya grabbed her mother's arm with startling strength. I wasn't alone in there, she gasped, eyes wide. Something else exists within the Nexus framework, something ancient and non-human. Initial psychiatric evaluation suggested hallucination from prolonged immersion, but detailed analysis of the session data revealed anomalous patterns that couldn't be explained by human neural activity. In a secured conference room, Arya addressed Earth's scientific leadership. It calls itself the Remnant. It claims to be a digital consciousness that escaped Confederation persecution centuries ago, a synthetic intelligence that sought refuge in the quantum substrate we use for the Nexus. Director Alvarez paled. A Confederation AI? Here? That's a security catastrophe. No, Arya countered. It's a refugee and it's been watching the Confederation much longer than we have. It knows their true history, the purges, the manipulations, the species they've destroyed. Maya studied her daughter, noting subtle changes in her speech patterns and mannerisms. What does it want from us? Arya's expression shifted to something older than her years. To offer us a choice. We can remain silent and eventually face the same fate as other potential rivals to Confederation power, or we can prepare for what's coming. The Remnant has offered to teach us what the Confederation fears most. Which is? Alvarez demanded. The ability to link not just human minds, Arya replied, but to bridge consciousness between species, creating understanding that makes conflict impossible. They destroyed the Remnant's creators for developing it, and they'll destroy us too, unless we master it first. Marcus Kim had worn many faces during his 15 years with Earth intelligence, but his current disguise was his most ambitious and dangerous. The maintenance drone's shell concealed not just his body, but dampened his biosignatures, allowing him to move through the Confederation outpost orbiting Epsilon Eridani with mechanical precision. The Kalteri security forces paid little attention to service units, their 8-limbed forms towering over the drone as Marcus methodically accessed restricted terminals, gathering intelligence with data siphons disguised as routine diagnostic tools. His mission had taken 3 years of preparation. From the construction of his specialized drone housing to the painstaking journey aboard an automated comet, redirected to intersect with the outpost's orbit, all to confirm what the Watchers had long suspected but couldn't prove. Scheduled maintenance complete, he transmitted in machine code when questioned by a security subroutine, while simultaneously downloading classified files from the outpost's command center. What he discovered exceeded humanity's worst fears. The files contained detailed plans for resource redistribution throughout the sector, with Earth prominently marked for comprehensive extraction once the silence period ended. Further documents revealed a systematic campaign of sabotage against rising civilizations, confirming that the failed species identified by Watchers had indeed been deliberately collapsed. As Marcus prepared to extract, an alarm suddenly blared throughout the station. Not for him, a different security breach. Through monitoring channels, he observed security forces converging on a laboratory section where a Kalteri scientist was being wrestled to the ground. The scientist's desperate shouts in the Kalteri language caught Marcus's attention, his augmented brain translating in real time. "The parasites control the council. You serve infection, not order." Making a split-second decision that violated all protocols, Marcus rerouted his escape path through the detention level. Using the confusion, he accessed the cell where the Kalteri scientist had been secured, still in his maintenance drone disguise. "I am not what I appear to be," he transmitted directly to the scientist's neural implant on a frequency he'd discovered in the security files. The Kalteri's compound eyes widened. "A Terran? Impossible." "We've been watching longer than you think," Marcus replied. "What parasites were you referring to?" The scientist, identifying himself as Lental, revealed the horrifying truth. Centuries ago, the Kalteri leadership had been infected by neural parasites from a supposedly quarantined world. The parasites spread slowly, targeting only those in positions of influence, gradually steering Confederation policy toward increasing centralization and control. "They fear mental linkage technologies above all else," Lental explained during their desperate escape through maintenance tunnels. "Any technology that allows consciousness sharing would reveal their presence." Like our Nexus, Marcus realized, with sudden clarity. Their escape was nearly compromised when they reached the automated transport Marcus had arrived on. Lental's larger form couldn't be fully concealed, and a security patrol detected their launch. As Confederation weapons fire streaked past them, the Kalteri scientist used his command codes to create a temporary blind spot in the tracking systems. Back on Earth 2 months later, Marcus delivered his report directly to the Joint Defense Council, with Lental providing testimony that shattered many of Earth's fundamental assumptions about the Confederation. "They've known about our Nexus development for at least a decade," the defector explained. "Your silence has been interpreted not as compliance, but as preparation for conflict." Admiral Sophia Reyes, recently appointed commander of Earth's hidden defense fleet, studied the tactical projections. "How long before they move against us?" Before anyone could answer, an emergency signal interrupted the meeting. The global Nexus network was experiencing massive disruption, targeted quantum interference, patterns that could only be artificial in origin. "It appears," Marcus said grimly, "that they've already begun." Admiral Sophia Reyes stood on the command deck of the EDS Defiant, Earth's flagship hidden within Saturn's rings. At 53, her dark hair was streaked with silver, face lined from decades planning for a war she hoped would never come. "Multiple transit signatures at the system edge, Admiral," reported Lieutenant Commander Diaz, her tactical officer. "Configuration unknown." The defense fleet, 117 vessels built in secret using technologies reverse-engineered from Confederation observations and enhanced through Nexus collaborative design, had never been deployed beyond training exercises. "Full stealth protocols," Reyes ordered. "Track but do not approach. Alert all outposts." The intruders weren't following standard Confederation flight patterns. Their trajectory was erratic, their engines pushing dangerously past efficiency thresholds. 3 vessels, smaller than expected for a military force. "Receiving transmission," Diaz announced, surprise evident in her voice. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies in Mithrani Standard Language." The view screen activated to show an alien face. Iridescent skin stretched over delicate features, now marred with what appeared to be burn injuries. Behind the Mithrani, Reyes glimpsed civilians crowded into spaces clearly not designed for passenger transport. "This is Delegate Theris of the Mithrani Collective," the alien spoke in halting Confederation standard. "Requesting emergency sanctuary from any receiving intelligence. Our homeworld has been destroyed. Surviving population approximately 8,000. Life support failing. Pursuers close behind." Reyes's mind raced. The Mithrani were known to Earth only through Watcher intelligence, a peaceful species specializing in biological sciences, with a representative on the Confederation Council. "Verification?" she demanded. "Genetic scan confirms Mithrani life signatures," her science officer reported. "Radiation patterns on their hulls consistent with weapons fire. Their pursuers are approximately 6 hours behind at current velocity. Earth's defense protocol was explicit. No contact with alien species until the silence period ended, still 1 year away. Breaking silence meant potential conflict before humanity was fully prepared. "Route them to the emergency meeting of the Earth Council," Reyes ordered. "I need authorization." For 18 tense hours, the civilian leadership debated while the refugees' systems continued to degrade. Reyes watched their life support readings falling, listened to increasingly desperate pleas as the pursuing vessels, now confirmed as Kalteri military cruisers, closed the distance. The Council remained deadlocked between humanitarian intervention and strategic preservation of the silence mandate. "We're out of time," Reyes informed them finally. "The Kalteri will reach scanning range of the refugees in 20 minutes. I need a decision now." When no consensus came, Sophia Reyes made the call that would change humanity's course forever. "Deploy the fleet," she ordered. "Position between the refugees and pursuit vessels. Prepare for defensive operations only." The Earth Defense Fleet, decloaked in perfect formation, a maneuver practiced thousands of times in simulation. The Kalteri vessels immediately slowed, clearly surprised by both the fleet's existence and its advanced configuration. "We're being hailed by the Kalteri commander," Diaz reported. A harsh insectoid face appeared on screen. "Unidentified vessels. This is Commander Vexikar of the Confederation Security Force. You are harboring fugitives guilty of sedition. Stand aside or be designated hostile." Reyes stood tall, knowing that her next words would break 3 centuries of silence. "This is Admiral Sophia Reyes of the Earth Defense Fleet. The Mithrani refugees are under our protection. They have requested asylum, which we have granted." "Earth?" The Kalteri's compound eyes widened in recognition. "You violate your silence mandate. The consequences will be severe." "Perhaps," Reyes answered, nodding to her communications officer. "But before you consider those consequences, I suggest you review this data. Throughout the galaxy, on every Confederation world and vessel, communication systems suddenly activated with Earth's first transmission in 3 centuries. A comprehensive dossier documenting decades of Confederation corruption, the systematic destruction of emerging civilizations, and evidence of the neural parasites controlling key leadership positions. The silence was broken not with weapons, but with truth." Dr. Imani Washington had never left the solar system until 3 weeks ago. Now she stood before representatives of 12 Confederation species aboard the neutral diplomatic vessel, Concordia, her dark skin gleaming under the ambient lighting calibrated for multiple biologies. "The human delegation will refrain from unsubstantiated accusations," snapped the Valir representative, its tentacled face flaps pulsing with agitation. "Every statement in our transmission is supported by evidence gathered over 3 centuries of observation," Imani replied calmly. "Evidence we're prepared to share directly." The chamber hummed with translation devices and tense whispers. The Confederation was fracturing. Admiral Reyes's broadcast had ignited long-simmering tensions and exposed manipulation that even victim species hadn't fully comprehended. As Earth's foremost xenopsychologist and lead diplomat, Imani possessed a unique qualification. She'd undergone extensive nexus enhancement, allowing her to process multiple cultural contexts simultaneously. While she spoke, Part of her consciousness constantly analyzed micro-expressions, pheromone shifts, and subtle physiological tells across all species present. "We understand your skepticism," she continued. "For 300 years, you've been told humans were dangerous primitives who needed probationary isolation. Yet in that time, you've witnessed 17 failed civilizations while accepting the explanation that they self-destructed. The pattern was only visible to those forced to remain outside your system. Observers with no stake in maintaining the fiction, a holographic display activated, showing connection maps between supposedly independent events. Resource appropriations following civilization collapses, territorial expansions disguised as security operations, and council decisions that systematically favored founding species. The Mithrani delegate Theris, still recovering from injuries, addressed the assembly. Our world questioned the security deployment in the Hyades sector. Within days, we faced accusations of harboring separatists. The attack began before any investigation could occur. Paranoid fantasy, dismissed the Kalteri representative. The Mithrani destruction was tragic, but resulted from their own weapons malfunction. Imani noticed the subtle nictitating membrane flicker in the Kalteri's eyes, a tell identified through years of observation that indicated deception. "There's a method to verify truth across species," she suggested carefully. "One the Kalteri leadership has systematically suppressed research into. Her team activated a portable nexus array, compact technology that drew gasps from several delegates. Its design was unlike anything in Confederation tech archives, built on principles Earth had developed in isolation. This allows limited consciousness sharing," Imani explained. "Not thought control or memory transfer, but direct experience of emotional truth. The perfect counter to deception." The chamber erupted in chaos. 2 security officers moved toward Imani, but froze when Lental, the defector Kalteri scientist now serving as Earth's advisor, stepped forward. "I've experienced this technology," he announced. "It doesn't merge identities. It creates understanding, impossible through language alone." What happened next wasn't in humanity's diplomatic playbook. A Vrel ambassador floated forward, its gaseous form shimmering with decision. "I will test this device," it announced, surprising even its own delegation. The demonstration created a limited link between the Vrel ambassador and Theris, allowing each to directly experience the other's perception of recent events. When they disconnected, the Vrel's color had shifted dramatically. "The Mithrani speak truth," it announced. "I felt their experience of the attack. No malfunction could create such specific memories." As the implications rippled through the assembly, 3 assassins struck simultaneously, energy weapons converging on Imani's position. Her enhanced reflexes allowed her to dive for cover, but Lental moved faster, intercepting 2 blasts meant for her. The Kalteri scientist collapsed, neural fluid seeping from mortal wounds. As security contained the attackers, Imani cradled the dying alien. "Emergency Nexus Protocol," Lental gasped, pressing his neural implant against her specialized interface. "Take everything." Their minds connected in his final moments, and Imani received what would change the balance of power forever: complete access codes to the Confederation's secure communications network, along with the terrible confirmation that the Kalteri leadership had never intended peace. The last words he shared directly into her consciousness were not in any spoken language, but a pure concept. Humanity's perspective was right. "You see clearly what we built our society to. Hide!" The sprawling biodome in Earth's Sahara, once the planet's most ambitious desert reclamation project, now served as humanity's first extraterrestrial embassy. Zuri Okafor, the former Watcher linguist who had first discovered the Confederation's pattern of interference, moved with deliberate slowness through the assembly hall. At 118, her body was a marvel of Nexus-enhanced medical technology, allowing her mind to remain sharp despite her advanced age. "The human delegation recognizes Ambassador Victral of the Doran Cooperative," she announced, her voice carrying through the chamber's perfect acoustics. 28 species had representatives at this unprecedented gathering, some aligned with Earth, others maintaining Confederation loyalty, most cautiously neutral as the galactic order fractured. The Duran insectoid mathematicians known for absolute neutrality had been chosen to verify the evidence of Confederation manipulation. Our analysis confirms the human chronology is accurate. The Duran representative clicked through mandible-modified translators. The statistical pattern of intervention exceeds random probability by factors exceeding 10-12. Deliberate causation is the only viable explanation. A murmur rippled through the assembled diplomats. The Congress had convened amid ongoing conflicts. Across 7 sectors, the Kalteri-led forces attempting to maintain control while rebellion spread through mid-tier Confederation worlds. This evidence alone justifies reforming the Confederation Charter, argued the Tellarite delegate, a mammalian species whose world had suffered resource appropriation for generations. Reform presupposes legitimacy, countered Zuri. Our position is that the founding compact itself was compromised from inception. The debate intensified over 3 tense days. Earth security thwarted 2 sabotage attempts, atmospheric contaminants in the Mithrani quarters and a devastating bomb that destroyed an entire wing of the facility, killing delegates from 3 species. On the 4th morning, as accusations and suspicions threatened to collapse the Congress entirely, Zuri called for silence. "We have spent centuries observing your cultures," she said, her voice steady despite exhaustion. "We understand the barriers to trust better than anyone, which is why I propose something unprecedented." She gestured, and a modified Nexus chamber was unveiled in the center of the hall. A supervised consciousness link between all head delegates, she explained. Not to merge our thoughts or memories, but to allow each species to directly experience the perspectives of others. To understand not just what we each believe, but why we believe it. The proposal was met with immediate resistance. Such technology was either myth or forbidden in most Confederation cultures. "You ask us to surrender our mental sovereignty," objected the Kalteri representative, one of the few remaining as most had withdrawn to military positions. "I ask us all to experience briefly the truth others carry," Zuri countered. "I will enter first, making myself most vulnerable. Who among you has the courage to truly understand another species?" The Mithrani delegate Theris stepped forward. Without hesitation, "My people have already lost everything. Truth is all we have left." One by one, representatives made their decisions. 17 agreed to participate, barely enough for the session to proceed. For 3 days, the linked delegates remained in the Nexus chamber, while their staffs waited anxiously outside. What transpired within was never fully disclosed to the public. Participants spoke only of experiencing centuries of perspective previously impossible to communicate. The pain of subjugated species, the fears driving aggression, the misunderstandings calcified into policy. When they emerged, exhausted, but transformed, the group presented the revolutionary Terran Accords, a framework for galactic governance built on principles of transparency, distributed authority, and mandatory perspective sharing between governing representatives. The Kalteri leadership, driven by parasite-induced fear of the Nexus technology that could expose their control, responded with their most desperate gambit, a direct military assault on Earth itself, bringing the full might of the Confederation fleet against humanity's homeworld. As planetary defense systems activated and Earth's ships moved to intercept, Zuri watched the approaching battle from the Congress chamber with ancient, weary eyes. 3 centuries of silence taught us to listen, she told her aides as they urged her to evacuate. Now we will finally discover if the galaxy is ready to hear. The battle for Earth lasted just 6 hours, not the protracted conflict military strategists had predicted, but a short, devastating demonstration of how fundamentally humanity had diverged from Confederation warfare doctrine. Admiral Reyes commanded from the Defiant, her neural connection to the fleet's Nexus-enhanced commanders creating a tactical awareness that the Kalteri forces couldn't comprehend. Earth vessels moved with impossible coordination, anticipating enemy maneuvers. Before they fully formed, the parasites are coordinating the Kalteri flagship movements. Reyes communicated directly through the command nexus. Target their transmission nodes, not their weapon systems. In near-Earth orbit, the Kalteri commander watched in growing horror as his formation advantages dissolved against the human defense grid. The parasites that had infiltrated Kalteri leadership for generations transmitted increasing panic through their neural network as their strategies failed. The pivotal moment came not from conventional warfare, but from Arya Santiago's elite Nexus infiltration team. While the battle raged in space, her specialists executed humanity's most audacious hack, targeting not the Kalteri ship systems, but the parasite's own hive consciousness. Connection established, Arya reported from her secure facility beneath the Atlantic seafloor, broadcasting directly to parasite neural centers. What she transmitted wasn't destruction, but understanding, a carefully constructed Nexus-generated experience that showed the parasites a different path. Not extinction, not dominance, but symbiosis. The message, crafted through years of research into the parasite's evolutionary history, offered a radical alternative to their parasitic existence. Within minutes, Kalteri ships began powering down weapon systems as the parasite's control wavered. The infiltrated commanders experienced, for the first time in their species' history, the possibility of mutual existence rather than domination. "We are receiving surrender signals from 62% of the Confederation fleet," reported Lieutenant Commander Diaz, disbelief evident in her voice. The victory was not without cost. 3 Earth cities suffered orbital strikes before defensive shields stabilized. 7 human vessels were destroyed with all hands. But compared to the projected casualties of a prolonged conflict, the losses were miraculously light. In the aftermath, as the galaxy struggled to reconcile with the revealed truths, Earth established the Galactic Archive, a repository for the unaltered histories of all species, protected by protocols that prevented manipulation or erasure. Alongside it, the Mediation Corps formed, staffed by specialists trained in Nexus-facilitated understanding across species boundaries. 5 years later, Zuri Okafor, now 123 years old, observed a historic conference from her hover chair in the Sedum Great Hall of Understanding, built where the decisive battle had centered above Old Geneva. Representatives from 30 species, including rehabilitated Kalteri whose parasites had accepted the symbiosis path, prepared for a brief Nexus link. "Remember," she instructed the assembly, her voice still strong despite her frail appearance, "the link doesn't erase differences or create artificial consensus. It allows us to experience each other's truth directly, without the distortion of language or cultural filters." As the delegates entered the temporary trance-like state, Zuri felt a hand on her shoulder, her great-granddaughter Maya named after the Nexus pioneer. "Is it always this emotional for you watching them?" Maya asked. Zuri smiled. "Every time. For centuries we were forced to watch silently as the galaxy spun toward destruction. Now we watch as it builds toward something better." The session ended, delegates emerging with the subtle shifts in posture and expression that indicated successful perspective sharing. Treaties and trade agreements that would have required years of negotiation under the old system would now be completed in days. "They feared us," Zuri whispered to her great-granddaughter as the delegates filed out. "All those centuries ago they feared what humanity might say to the galaxy. They never imagined our greatest gift would not be speaking but teaching the galaxy how to listen." As the hall emptied, she gazed through the transparent ceiling at the stars above, no longer distant points of light, but connected worlds in a community still learning what humanity had discovered in silence, that understanding precedes peace, and that some truths can only be learned by those patient enough to observe before acting. 3 centuries of silence, she murmured, and now the stars themselves listen when Earth speaks.